Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Somewhat Daily Tarot and Rune. I'm Jan Erickson. It's the 8th day of November, 2018, a Thursday. Yesterday was the new moon, so perhaps you set your intentions for new beginnings and initiation and thinking about maybe where you want to go over the next month, what you want to do, and all of that. I prefer the new moon to the full moon, actually. Full moon's nice, but sometimes it's a little too nice for me, so it's a little too energetic. So I kind of like the new moon. It's the crone moon, so lots of crone energy. Well, actually, just before it starts is the crone moon, is the crone aspect of it, but I think around the full moon I talked about you can do ritual for 3 days, the day before, the day of, and the day after. And so you can actually do, on the full moon, you can do maiden, mother, and crone on the 3 days of the full moon. You can also do the same sort of thing if you want to during the new moon, but I don't. I just sort of get quiet and I think about what's all happened and what I'd like to see happen in the future, and just sort of send out the influence of balance. I think that we've all come through it here of late. The last couple of years have been hard. I think that if the guy in the Oval Office's comments yesterday in the press conference were any indication, I was hoping that we could all just sort of take a day and take a breath, but then, the Attorney General was fired, and I mean, I don't really care. I didn't like that he was our Attorney General, so I don't have a lot of, vested interest in any of that, other than to say that he's putting a guy in there temporarily that will help him through, he thinks anyway, this investigation. It's a pipe dream, folks. I think they've got so much on this guy. I mean, if the books that have been published of late are any indication, I mean, wow. I mean, the whole thing just, literally, it just makes me physically ill to even think about it. And to watch his display, they're playing it over and over and over again, so I've had to shut that off. I can't watch that. Listening to him call Yamiche Alcindor's question racist. It wasn't. He brings this on himself and he wants everyone to kiss his feet. Well, most of us aren't like him. Most of us would never dream of talking to people the way he does. Most of us, if we were to get a high-powered job, we'd do it because we were actually qualified for it. And whatever we didn't know, we would learn. We would want to know. It would matter that much that we did our best. But with him, it doesn't matter what the truth is or what the facts are. He just says they're not. It's whatever he feels, and you're not supposed to believe anything anybody says, and only him. This is, I don't know if he's just crazy or if he's a fascist or what, but this is just a sad, sad day, to listen to what he did yesterday. That was awful. And then to see it culminate in a shooting, another shooting. I don't know. I'm just worn out from it. I'm sure everyone else is too. And I wish it wasn't happening. The cards really can only help us, not him. He's lost. And eventually that will resolve itself. So I try with these cards to keep it as much about who we are and how we process our world. Sometimes these things come out, though, that it seems like it's him, and that's what the messages are. But I hope that I hope that whatever I can offer here is at least can give you something to think about other than what we see going on. And maybe just in order to keep yourself safe and aligned and in peace while all of this gets worked out, while the direction of our country gets reestablished. So, in any event, let's count 13 and see what it has for us today. Well, we have the Magician. Another major arcana card. Yesterday I drew the Hanged Man. The major arcana is really their soul archetypes. And what that means is they're areas of consideration that we need to think about as we're moving through form. It's the overarching principles that we live under. And with the Magician, it's basically it's card one. It isn't the first card. The Fool is the first card, but that's zero, card zero. So, basically it's unity consciousness. When we come into form, we haven't figured out yet that we don't remember who we are actually as soul. Well, most of us don't. Some of us do. But here you see all elements present: air, fire, water, and earth. You see him raising his wand to the air or up into the sky. You see the infinity sign symbol above his head, the lemniscate. Magicians and witches and all of that, we refer to the pentacle, we refer to the pentacle and the chalice and the wand and the athame as our tools. They're kind of the tools of the trade for magic. The wand represents fire. The chalice represents water. The pentacle or pentagram represents earth. The sword represents the air element. And basically and you can see that his hand, you've got one hand with the wand up to spirit, and then the other hand's pointing to earth. So he's representing the alignment of as above, so below energies. We have the 7 rays coming through, influencing the planets. And so that's the above energies, the celestial energies, spirit energies, source energies, coming into manifesting form. And so when we see the Magician card, we're talking about our life force, we're talking about willpower, we're talking about, one of the things I remember reading, Raven knowledge, which is cool. I like that. It's about conscious focus and casting one's intention in the world. But basically you see the yellow background, which is air. It could also be fire because it's kind of orangey, isn't it? He's surrounded by flowers. He's surrounded by beauty, and he's manifesting beauty. But this is about wisdom manifested into our life force, and inspiration and willpower. It's the conscious directing of energy and will. It's an extremely powerful card. And basically what it tells me whenever I see it is that we're more powerful than we know. We tend to feel like everything happens to us, and we forget that we're here actually to manifest. And so when you see the Magician come up, you're talking, its numerological value is 1. So you're looking at energies of new beginnings. And clearly we're in that mode right now where we're talking about new beginnings. We had the election, a balance of power has shifted. And so we then see the kind of, response from the guy in the White House yesterday. That's what that was all about. He's firing the attorney general, getting mad at a reporter, taking away his White House press credentials, accusing him of assaulting a White House intern, a female, which did not happen. I watched the video. I've seen various videos, not just one. I've seen pictures. We see it in slow motion. It's been all over the news. It's all over the internet. He didn't do what they said he did. But that doesn't matter, see. It's almost like, he's a magician, a black magician that is casting all of this, intention all over the place, expecting people to believe all of this illusion. Here's the truth, here's the ugly truth of it all, but no, you're supposed to believe this. Well, that's a black magician. That's not someone who has any white magic in him at all. And so very, very, very service to self-oriented, somebody like that. And so they're only concerned with crafting the impression. It's almost like he creates a black magician's glamour, okay, where he's decided that actually the truth is all of this, and everything that you're actually seeing, you're just going to hear my explanation for it, and that's what you're all going to believe. And by golly, you've got people that are doing that, and they're not acting from their inner knowing. They're not, some of it is so ludicrous that they ought to be laughing out loud. Just an initial laugh out loud response. It's like, you're kidding me, right? That's hilarious. Don't be ridiculous. Come again, do it again, try again, But that's not, what's happening with some folks. With some folks, they're so taken by the glamour, the glamour spell that's being cast, because that's what this is. The mantra, the chanting, the repetitive comments. Don't you know what that is? Well, I do. Every witch out there does. Every magician out there does. That's why we're so worried. We know the effect that this has, this chanting. You saw it with Hitler in Germany. Same sort of thing. It's a brainwashing. It's mind control, folks. And it's making people believe something that isn't true and that is so obviously not true, that other people who don't succumb to this sort of thing, they truly are looking on at everybody going, what are you doing? Don't you see this? And it's like they don't. They see the complete opposite. Now, I don't know. I think that's black magic. I think that's a glamour being cast, and not a good one. Not making your appearance look a little better when your hair's not washed or something. A glamour is being placed all over people. And if you're not strong enough to see it, oh my Lord. You wonder why things are so polarized right now. Why so many people are sounding the alarm. Well, there's a reason. Well, this is Laguz. Laguz is, I forget which number this one is. Let me look here on my little cheat sheet. Well, it's 21. I was thinking it was 20, but that's Menas. 21. So we're looking at it at a catalytic. It's a 3 numerology, so that's a catalytic unification wholeness. But Laguz is a water element rune, and what Laguz is telling us to do is to be easy, okay, and let things flow. Let spirit flow today and for the foreseeable future. As an empath, I deal with intrusive energies, or energies that we call vampiric. My last book that I wrote, that I published, is called When Vampires Attack, and it deals with the various types of vampiric energies. I have a degree in psychology, so I brought it down to psychological terms, like passive aggressive and sociopathic and narcissistic and all of that. But I basically discuss the different types of energy vampires out there and intrusive energies that we have to deal with. And whether you are on the level of someone who experiences these energies uh, uh, from the standpoint of being empathic, um, or you're just somebody that might pick up on things now and then, we have to learn how to deal with these sorts of things. And one of the things that we can do in meditation is call back our energy. It's also called cutting cords. I don't actually care for that expression. I think that we can't actually cut anything because we're all one. We're all one energy. So it makes sense that if that you're going to feel uncomfortable energies around you. But it doesn't have to be within your general vicinity. It can be anywhere. It can be through the internet. It can be through email. It can be, you can experience watching something on television. You can get it anywhere. If you have trouble in big box stores, for example, it could be that you're simply picking up on energies and it's just too much for you, too overwhelming. You can't keep your own, little bubble going. And there's lots of ways to deal with it, but, shielding techniques and whatnot. But one of the things that you can do is you can go into meditation. And if you don't even want to do that, you can just get very, very quiet and force yourself into the still point and then chant laguz quietly to yourself, silently, if you like, or out loud. Laguz can be used in trance work as a magical hook, if you will, to draw energies to you that you need, but it can also draw your own back to you. And what I like to do is I like to envision those energies dissolving. The only way that it happens, okay, is if you put your attention to it. Once you've put your attention to something, you've created a channel of thought, okay, or a river of energy, if you will. To that, whatever it is you're thinking about, whether it's a person or a situation or whatever, you've connected your thoughts to that or to that person. And once that has happened, if you don't end it, if you don't let that dissolve and turn your attention to something else, then pieces of you are still there, okay? And sometimes that's all it takes for an intrusive connection to come in. And so you want to, because when an energy vampire taps you on the shoulder, you're kind of like, ooh, what's that? Especially if you're an empath. You're like, what was that? And who was that? That's interesting. And so you turn your attention. Well, if you do that briefly, just do it briefly, right? And it's an intrusive thing. You can go, oh, I don't want to talk to you, and then look away. And don't give your attention to that person any longer. They may still continue to move through you and try to get your attention and affect you. But you need to then do what you have to do, shield, leave, do whatever you have to do to try to keep yourself centered and aligned so that their intrusive energy doesn't bother you. Because I'll tell you, some of it can be really disconcerting. And so when Laguz comes up, and we have the magician as well, what Source is trying to remind us of, what Higher Self is trying to remind us of, is we have a whole lot more power and control than we know. And it really involves where we place our focus. Those disparate energies that want to bother us really can't hurt us if we don't look at it and say, okay, let's play. Now, we may think that's not what we're doing, but if we spend too much time there trying to figure out what this is, and my whole attitude is, if it's intrusive, don't try to figure it out. Just acknowledge that it's intrusive and move on. Don't try to entangle yourself with it, because the more you focus on it, the more you look at it, the more you connect to it, and the bigger that channel is, and the harder it is to walk away from it. So, maybe today on this 8th day, what we're really talking about here, our greatest strength is in our own alignment with our own source presence. To understand that we are the channel between as above and so below. That goes through something, just as the rays of creation go through all celestial bodies, they also go through us. And we are what is manifesting that here on this earth. We are the manifestation of that on this earth. So consequently, we need to understand the power that we have. We don't need to succumb to intrusive vampiric energy. We don't need to succumb to the chaos around us. We can find our still point and create from that place of magic and alignment with source presence. We can face these intrusive energies that are so uncomfortable because not everybody is aligned. There's a lot of chaotic folks out there now, a lot of chaotic people that are creating even bigger chaotic situations, all right? And they're unnerving. But if we don't time ourselves, if we find ourselves being drawn to it, then maybe there's a connection there that we need to have a little more power over. Instead of, feeling uncomfortable all the time, bring your frequency up higher and get out of those uncomfortable energies. That's the other thing. Through alignment and meditation and, keeping a positive mood and keeping and paying attention to where you place your focus. Sometimes that's all it takes to raise your frequency up. And these energies, these vampiric, intrusive energies, they can't reach you. Now, some people in the esoteric community view those as archonic energies, the archons that they talk about in the Book of Enoch and other esoteric texts. Those are energies that are not in form, okay? Not in terms of our form. But they're here nonetheless. They're astral in that sense. And so they like to feed off people's drama. They like to feed off people's upset. That's where they derive their life force, basically. And so human beings have to then be the magician and say, no, I'm going to guide my life force. You're not going to steal that from me, no matter who it is, whether it's another human who's, checking you out and forcing his attention on you and trying to make you, be upset or whatever, in a sense, feeding off of you, deriving pleasure because they're upsetting you, because they do. If you use laguz to sort of hook your own energy back and visualize bringing it back to you, then you can stay a little more aligned and be the creative magician that we in fact are. We're here to guide our own life. We're here to experience things, and we're going to experience good and bad, and that includes the intrusive energies from others, all right? Because these others these are just the other side of self that we're experiencing. We're not alone here. We're not individuals, no matter how much we might think we are. We're part of the greater unified presence of source energy. So we are one with all of this, no matter what it is. But we have a little more power and control over this than we realize. And so I think for today, we just might think about that. Think about being the magician in your own life, taking command of the elements, manifesting them in a way that makes better sense and keeps you safe and in harmony with self and others. And then make sure that you take time every day, a couple of times a day. I have to do it twice a day. I do it in the morning and I do it at night, or usually in the evening. Or if I have to do it more, I do. If I'm feeling intrusive energy, if I'm feeling that I'm getting upset and my own equilibrium is not staying in balance, then I take a moment and I go inward and I chant laguz and I visualize drawing back all of my own focuses of attention, my own channels of energy that I've created or I've agreed to from others, okay? And I bring all of it back to my still point and I start again. So anyway, something to think about while these chaotic times continue, unfortunately. It wasn't enough to be the hanged man yesterday, evidently. So anyway, thanks so much for stopping by. Click subscribe if you like. I'd love you to do that. Check out my blog, Stepping Aside at imsteppingaside.com. I post this over there. I won't see you again until Monday. I might put something up, though. I was going to do that last weekend, and I didn't. I got busy. I'm still dealing with my herbs, trying to get them organized and structured. I'm moving them out to another spot here, another building on our property. So I don't know if I'll get anything like that done today, but I'm probably going to do some stuff on herbs and probably talk a little more about empath stuff and how we deal with energy. I think that we need it. So at least, my perspective might be a little different than others. I'm not going to give you 50 tips to deal with being an empath because, all you are is someone who's more aware of your source presence. That's all. It's not anything that makes us special. It's more of a headache than anything else, truly. So, anyhow, thanks so much again for stopping by. Hope you'll come back on Monday. Be kind to yourself, be kind to others, and blessed be.